Are Ukrainian women suffering from domestic violence in relationships? Do you know, guys, how much women all over the world suffer from domestic violence? Here is the fact. In Ukraine, only 10-15% of victims go to the police. Can you imagine that annually about 1 million of Ukrainian women face physical and sexual aggression in the family? Every single year, 600 women in Ukraine die from domestic violence. That's the way how it is, guys, in Ukraine. And I also want you to realize that that's also one of the main reasons why Ukrainian women looking for foreign husbands, because they're considered to be more loyal, more tolerant, more well-mannered, and actually more kind. So, my name is Vita. Welcome to new edition Ask Vita Live, and today in this video we are going to discuss the horrible situation with domestic violence in Ukraine. Why actually Ukrainian women suffer so much from this and why they prefer in most cases to be silent. Domestic or family violence, physical, psychological and sexual, one of the biggest painful problems in families nowadays. Some victims can keep silence for years. Some will fight, with abuser till the very end. For Ukrainian women, it's one of the biggest fear while choosing a husband, actually, especially foreign one. Have you ever thought that victim of domestic violence abroad will have much less chances to protect their rights and to defend themselves, especially if she doesn't know local language well, doesn't work, wasn't able to adjust to a new society. Some Russian or Ukrainian women searching for loving and caring husband abroad can get into a real trap of sexual and moral pervert or freak. This type of man, can be easily recognized from the very beginning. He is usually jealous, not caring about her social adaptation in foreign country. He is usually against of her taking courses of English language, having driving license, new friends. He limits her freedom. He always tries also to limit her possibilities and will just keep her in the house, making her fully dependent on him and his finances and his money. This problem is very painful and still preferred not to be discussed openly. But I hope you understand we are talking if we are talking regarding foreign men, it's more exception than a rule, but it still happens, guys. And we will discuss also about the situation of domestic violence and statistic in some foreign countries. So, some people really can't realize the extent of this disaster and the level of victims' sufferings. In Ukraine, we have, even a proverb, beats means loves. Once we mentioned in our previous episodes, and we come back to this topic again. But in real life, everything is much deeper, more complicated. In most cases, works the stereotype of shame, fear of publicity, public censorship. All this makes actually victim to keep silence in most cases, especially in Ukraine. Unfortunately, Ukrainian mentalities makes the situation even worse. Most of people prefer not to interfere, not to be involved in some other family's conflicts. They prefer to be aside of the conflict, not to get problems just for themselves. Some kind of connivance, We say, my house is on the edge, I know nothing. Also, they will understand themselves, they will solve this problem. So, such an ignorant and indifferent sayings also tell a lot about general attitude of people to this problem in Ukraine. This specific attitude also makes suffering victims not to tell about abuse openly. Some of those who suffers moral, psychological abuse, looking for the reasons in themselves, and in most cases, they start to feel guilty themselves. So they try to understand what they did wrong. Instead of blaming the abuser, they try to find the reasons in themselves and try to forgive abuser. So, have been lost in this net of casual relationship. These people takes actually the role of victim. Here is some statistic, guys. Every single day, police in Ukraine records about 350 facts of domestic violence, and in 70-80% of such cases the victims are women. The majority of women prefer, of course, to keep silence. And do you know why only 27%, just think, such a low percentage of abused women consider rudeness as a domestic violence? So it means for the whole 70% of all abused women, rudeness is not the violence. So it's just a norm, it's a standard of their life, and they accept the fact of men being rude to them. For 49%, it's practically half of the whole amount of women, the beating is considered as a violence, and 56% agree to consider the rape as a violence. So you can understand, it's always in the mind, it's always in the brain of the women who actually don't realize, and they try to blame themselves first of all. The main problem that the whole system of bringing up the kids in Ukraine is built on the points that girls are always weak. So it's considered that they should be protected, and also means they can be beaten. It's like a hidden meaning, you know. And it's not just a problem, it's kind of war. Annually, about 600 women in Ukraine die from domestic violence. And I can tell you, it's 3 times more than actual amount of killed soldiers in the zone of anti-terrorist operation in Lugansk and Donetsk region. Can you imagine the level, the extent of this disaster here in Ukraine? The most weird fact about this, that from 29 asked women, 23 of them found more than 100 reasons excusing violence of their partners. This definition in psychology called Stockholm Syndrome. Victims tend to excuse the abuser for many reasons, and like financial depending, lack of own accommodation, simply not understanding how to avoid the violence, how to deal with it, how to avoid future violence when the man will get furious because she went to police and make a report there. And in most cases, women or people who were treated cruelly just not believe that somebody will really help them. Only 3 from 10 Ukrainian men accused in violence can get into the jail. And this is because 40% of workers of the whole justice system in Ukraine, they consider domestic violence just as a routine, just a matter of some family conflict. Moreover, 60% of them consider the victims to be guilty for provoking actually such behavior towards them. Most of them consider this crime just a family quarrel or simple misunderstanding between partners, expecting that arguing sides will just forgive each other, will understand each other, and just to save the family, because the family is very important. And that's also one of the reasons why most of women keep silence, why they are patient for many years, not telling to their parents, not going to police, not telling to friends, because it's considered to be shame here. And of course, if they have kids, majority of women treated like this. They think that for kids, the most important is to be raised in the whole family, where is mother and father. So due to this fact, most of them just prefer to keep silence because their kids should have both parents. But I think that's absolutely stupidity. By doing this, actually, they damage kids' psychology. And it can get even worse in the future. And what's the problem? Such court cases are heard usually without victim. So the average time of such court hearing, not more than 7 minutes usually. Even the workers who takes these deals seriously, like policemen or some executors, they don't have possibility to deal with them properly because of justice system mistakes. Sometimes just the procedure can take months, and at the end of the day, the court hearing is just 7 minutes. Of course, it's senseless to go and to report because sometimes you can be killed when the court will make a decision. To prove domestic violence is also not an easy deal here, and sometimes victims understanding how long and difficult it can be, and they just prefer to live as it is. Forensic scientists don't work everywhere, in every region, in every city, especially if this village, countryside or small town, and they usually don't work on weekends. So if the woman, let's imagine, was beaten on the Friday, on Monday, actually, it will be late to report to police, because beating should be recorded within just 3 days. You should realize that not only women suffer from domestic violence, also kids who were raised in the cruel atmosphere with the constant conflicts, scandals in the family, they also will grow either as victims or abusers. It's a well-known fact. And psychologists tell that the person who forgives the abuser for a long period very quickly turns himself into the permanent victim. And mostly her next relationship of this woman, of victimized woman, it will be the same, because the victim subconsciously searching for the punisher for herself. Violence addiction can't be treated. It's forever. It's in the brains and you can't change it. So the best way is just to leave as soon as possible. Domestic violence also is not only beating, or sexual abuse. It's also blackmailing, making the person to do what actually he or she doesn't want to do, emotional pressure, rude behavior, financial blackmailing, manipulation actually. A lot of cases, not only beating is considered to be like a domestic violence. You can find victims of domestic violence all over the world. Third part of all women at least once were treated cruelly. The highest rate of domestic violence, there, guys, in Southeastern Asia, it's about 40%. But in Europe, 23% of women also suffer. We are talking now not about just cruel treatment. Statistic claims 38% of murders of women just the work of their partners. Among European and North American countries, Ukraine is one of the second place. If in Europe domestic violence is considered to be a criminal, in Ukraine it's considered still to be kind of administrative offense or conflict. Now in Ukraine exist some special police groups, national police, which were actually created specifically to react on domestic violence cases immediately, like groups of fast reaction. So here is the fact for you. About 68% of Ukrainian women suffer from domestic violence, which is about, guys, 18 million women. Just imagine. I think that's horrible numbers. And, guys, I see. Hello, guys. David. Yeah, I'm feeling better. I wasn't feeling bad last time as well. We will continue conversation. I just want to say hello for guys who joined us today. Thanks for your patience. I hope this topic will be very useful for you, because I see a lot of you keep asking questions about domestic violence and why Ukrainian women actually suffered from this disaster and why they keep silence, why not go to police, and you want to understand the level of this bad thing in Ukraine. William, hello, nice to see you too. Carl, hello, yes. Tracy, Harry, nice, all guys. Also guys who just joined us first time, don't forget to subscribe our channel, please, by simply clicking subscribe button in the lower right of the screen. Do me this great favor, because due to your help, you keep our channel growing, and we are with you until you need us, actually. Yeah. David, if a Ukrainian woman can drive in Ukraine, does she have to take the test in USA to drive here? Absolutely. Yes, you need to confirm, and you need to be like retested, rechecked. Yeah, it's usually because Ukrainian license is not like kind of guarantee in European Union. So it's always should be taken once again. Guys who beat up their partner are losers, period. Absolutely agree with you. Only weak man who had a lot of complexes in his mind, who doesn't feel confident absolutely about himself, and he can he consider he can raise his confidence by actually getting down another person, especially person who depends on him and who is weaker than him. And we know this from childhood. Only losers can actually treat cruelly weaker people, like kids, women, parents, whoever. Yeah. Yannick, hello, nice to see you. You joined us today. Thanks. It's very sad, Vita, but just remember, Russia have partially decriminalized domestic violence last year. Now they have no help whatsoever. Yeah, I know that, but we are trying to work on this problem here in Ukraine, but it's still not so effective, because I told you, even mentality, every day I come across of stealing kids. Every day there is announcements. In Kharkov, in Kiev, in Odessa, in Chernigov, kids were stolen, age of 10, age of 11, 12, 14, 15, raped, killed, thrown away from the car, whatever can happen. And in most cases, what is the worst part? People saw this case, people saw this and didn't do anything, just post on Facebook, okay, I saw, maybe call to the police, but later on, not trying to actually to help the kids, to fight with those people. And that's of course makes this disaster even worse, because of mentality. Okay, guys, so let's get back to the topic. So let's compare. The Supreme Court in United Arab Emirates legalized the possibility of beating wives and small kids in case there won't stay any visual evidences on their bodies. Just imagine. Even mentioned small kids. At the same moment, Poland forbids to use even slaps in bringing up process. In case of such situation, police or special establishment representatives of special establishments can take the child, and the court in 24 hours should decide about deprivation of parental rights. And maybe you will be surprised, every fifth child in Europe suffers from sexual abuse now. That's horrible statistic, and it's really shameful statistic. In USA, by the way, the situation is not much better, guys. Unfortunately, statistic claims every minute in USA 20 people suffer from domestic violence. I'm not talking right now only about women. I'm talking also about kids. I'm talking even about men, parents, elder people. So every minute, 20 people suffer from domestic violence in America. But in America, only 7% of American women actually know the information about special protective programs, shelters, psychologists. In many cases, even 911, police, tells the victims to call police only when the husband, like, let's say, will start to use knife. So when there is an actual danger for her life. So some women ask, I should be killed or injured to call you and to make you come to save me. But not just in the process when he starts fighting her, just, Office of, maybe you guys know, Office of Domestic Violence in USA, really very useful, and a lot of women, American women, make their reports and reviews with great thank you, that they're very grateful to this office, because it's really useful and it helps a lot of women there to find their shelter and actually to punish the abusers. And David, would you say dating a woman that has been abused be very hard? What type of problems would they face? Could abused woman ever really trust in you men? Okay, that's a great question. Let me answer this just in 2-3 minutes, okay? Because for now we need to have 2-3 minutes break as always. Please come back, join us, stay tuned. We are discussing domestic violence, the level of domestic violence in Ukraine, why actually Ukrainian women suffer from this and why they prefer to keep silence. So stay with me, I'll be back, and please don't forget to subscribe our channel who still didn't do this. Just 2 minutes, guys.